Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, everybody. Josh Brown here. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Thrilled to be back in a particular excitable mood today because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is social media and franchising. But before we dive into that, I want to reiterate that I have now separated out Franchise Euphoria from IndieFranchiseLaw.com, which is my law practice franchise website, so that FranchiseEuphoria.com is a living and breathing entity on its own. So if you haven't already, go check it out. That's where my podcast is housed, and you can find all sorts of really great content, resources, ebooks, white papers, all sorts of stuff that I'm confident will be able to help you in your journey through the often complex, confusing, and difficult franchise world. So hopefully that can be a tremendous resource for you. Well, today I want to talk about and spend a few minutes talking about social media and franchising. So whether you are buying a franchise or turning your business into a franchise or just engaged in a entrepreneurial venture, we all know that social media touches upon so many aspects of every single business, and it's imperative that you understand how it works and how it can benefit your business. Let me give you a little bit of a backdrop here. When I launched my law firm that I knew was going to be focused on franchise work, I realized early on that I needed to take advantage of social media. In fact, I built it into my business plan before I even launched my business. Before I had launched my business, I had already set up my blog, IndieFranchiseLaw.com. I already had the idea that I was going to launch a podcast. I just didn't know exactly when I was going to do it, but I knew that I wanted to use that medium to be able to provide free, valuable, educational, good content to people around the world. And I knew that I wanted to be able to utilize social media in the best way I could for my business. Now, figuring out how I was exactly going to do that was a work in progress, and quite frankly, still is to this day. But the one thing I did right was I got in the game, and I got in the game right when I launched. And in fact, before I launched, and over time, I've been able to tweak what I'm doing and really hone in on utilizing social media so that it doesn't take over my business, take over all the time I spend in my business, but I use it for what I believe it's most valuable for, and it has had an incredible impact on my business. So before I end this episode, I'm going to give you my 3 takeaways on social media that I think can apply to you and your business and help you so that when you get started, you can get started on the right track. Now, interestingly, in franchise systems, there's many systems that I've worked with and many franchise documents that I've reviewed where, believe it or not, social media is frowned upon by the franchisor. Now, part of that is they want to be able to control their own messaging. They want to be able to engage people in a consistent way across their brand, which I certainly understand. But part of it is too, is they want to, in certain instances, allow themselves the control over all online functions for the business. So what do I mean by that? A number of franchise systems in their actual franchise documents specifically won't allow you, let's say if you're a retail type store, retail location, to market yourself online. They just simply won't allow that to happen. Now, part of that is it's because they have their own presence online and they want to be able to market online, and they don't want the franchisees interfering with that, or sometimes they don't want the franchisees getting a piece a piece of that pie. Certainly something to consider when you're buying a franchise. But I really truly believe that any franchise in this day and age that isn't taking advantage of social media, that in fact doesn't have a social media presence, or doesn't have a team on the franchisor side that is working to develop a social media presence, is completely missing the mark. We are living in an age where the online and offline worlds are merging and converging into one. What do I mean by that? Well, the reality is, and just take it to your own examples, to your own life. How often have you been at a function where you meet someone in person, and then within a half an hour after you leave, you're now connected on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. There's some sort of crossover component into the online space. Well, the same thing goes for when you meet people online first. You're always searching for that one-to-one connection where you can go meet up with that person, especially if it's a person that you've gotten to know in the online space. So there's a convergence that's been occurring and continues to occur, where the offline and the online are really one and the same, and really part of an overall strategy to build your network, to grow your network, and to put yourself out there in a way so that when people are ready for your services, they know where to find you and they know you're top of mind. The thing about social media is that I think sometimes it gets a bad rap. I think people believe it's something for the millennial age. I think I talked to a number of people who are in their, 50s and 60s and older who stay as far away as they can from social media. And maybe for where they are in their lives, they're not thinking from the perspective of how they're going to grow their businesses. And I can certainly appreciate that. But I think regardless of your age, if you have a business in which you're looking to grow, add customers, expand your network, increase your influence, and have a bigger impact, you absolutely have to understand and utilize social media. It just becomes more complex when you're talking about doing it in a regulated business model. And that's what franchising is, because not only as the franchisee do you need to be concerned about how you're going to grow it for your territory, for your business location, but you also have to operate under your franchisor's model. And your franchisor is thinking about the entire model, whereas you as a franchisee is more thinking about your localized territory. But there's no question, there's absolutely no question in my mind that when I am reviewing a franchise system, if I don't see clearly that there's an effort or a social media model that they're following, or there's a person or a resource devoted to helping on that front, I always try to have my clients and my folks ask about that. And it will give you a really good insight into where your franchisor is. And if they're not doing anything on social media and have no plans to do anything on social media, to me, that tells me they're just behind the times in terms of how they're going to market their business, and specifically how you as a franchisee are going to market your business. So a couple of things you want to be thinking about as the prospective franchisee or current franchisee in your business. You need to understand that with social media, it's very, very easy to feel as though to get lost in the depth of it all, in the breadth of it all, I guess, because it encompasses really the opportunity to meet people all over the world. There are really three takeaways that I will tell you about that, and as it ties into how you can use social media with your franchising. And that is, first, that you obviously need to use it. We understand that. If you don't believe that you need to use social media in your franchise, then you can just stop listening to this podcast right now and go on your merry way, because nothing I say is going to benefit you. But the reality is you do need to use it. And but number two, you need to localize it. That's the biggest problem that I found with myself when I was starting out using social media, and what I see today with franchisees and franchisors that try to utilize it, but they don't do it effectively. Well, what do I mean by localize it? Well, you have to understand that the way that all these social media platforms, the way that Google and their algorithms and any kind of search engine, is things are becoming more and more localized to a certain extent. From Google's perspective, when you're searching for something, they want to localize it because they know that if you're looking for a paint store and you're located in Philadelphia, you don't care about a paint store in Indiana. But from a social media perspective, you can connect with people all over the world. But when you look at it from a business perspective, you need to start off where you're most comfortable. And 9 times out of 10, where you're most comfortable is going to be in your local area. So I always recommend to people that to localize it as a franchisee or a new business owner, you need to be out there and focus your social media efforts on meeting people and business owners and others inside your territorial location, and possibly slightly outside of it, but definitely in a localized way. Make sure that you are connecting with people and businesses that are in and around your location. That will give you an opportunity to meet those people, to get to know those people, to develop relationships with those people, and to develop referral sources a heck of a lot faster than it will by you going door to door, or you just you approaching it from more of a strictly traditional way. So once you've identified people in your localized area, then you need to go through the organized effort of meeting them, of getting to know them, of making your presence known. And from that, you can start building a platform that will multiply, and over time, you will be able to expand out. Now, here's the thing about localizing it that people don't understand on social media. If you don't take control of that process, it will control you, and you will have no real practical basis to localize it. Social media platforms don't really dictate how or where you're connecting with people. I mean, you can connect with people all over. You need to take the steps necessary and do your own research to figure out, who am I looking to find and where can I find those people? On a lot of these social media platforms, there's plenty of tools, plenty of searching tools where you can really dive in and start seeing where, okay, I think I want to connect with this person. And why do I want to connect with this person? I mean, there's a strategy behind it. And I think the smart people who find the most success with social media as it relates to their business have a strategy. It's like anything else in your business. You have to have an objective, and you have to have a way in which you're going to reach your objective. And the same holds true to your social media efforts. And then finally, as I alluded to earlier, I mean, really you need to tie your online social media efforts to your offline efforts. That's going to be the way that you complete the circle. I think a lot of us can relate to the example where you meet a lot of people, you connect with a lot of people online. They become your Facebook friends, or you connect with them on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. And if you go back through all your connections, I guarantee you will find where you are missing opportunities to connect with people one-on-one. Because as much as we've become a fast-paced society, a very online society, still nothing replaces one-to-one connections. And in fact, I think I could make a pretty persuasive argument that in this online fast-paced world we live in, nothing is probably more valued at this point than a one-to-one connection. It sort of feels comforting to know that, yes, I've met a lot of people, but I'm really getting to know people because I'm taking it from the online context and now turning it into the offline real world concept. Because at the end of the day, we all know this, people do business with those that they like, know, and trust. And the real way it's always been this way, it will always continue to be this way, that you get people to know, like, and trust you, is to eventually meet them in person, shake their hands, look them in the eye, have a real conversation with them. There's something a lot more tangible to that than just doing it through a Skype call, doing it through online. So I would encourage you in your franchise to develop your own social media strategy. But before you can develop your social media strategy, you have to understand whether you're allowed to have a social media strategy. And believe it or not, in this day and age, there are still a whole heck of a lot of franchises that do not let you have that. So, long story short, please make sure that your franchise allows you to have a social media strategy. Make sure you understand the parameters in which you need to work within that social media strategy, and then create your own localized efforts to then go take that and develop more business partners, referral relationships, and really a better localized awareness of your brand and your community. That will absolutely 100% aid you in your success, and I think increase your likelihood of success. But you've got to have a strategy behind it. Well, anyways, hope this episode was helpful. One of my favorite topics, social media and franchising. I'm sure I'll have more episodes on that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. And until the next time, happy franchising.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.